Hi, it's Mai here with my 2023 reading goals and my 2022 goals wrap up. I'm going to go through my new goals first, so let's start with my reading goals for 2023. My first goal is to bring reads and receipts back, so this is my monthly wrap up sort of where I go through how I'm doing with my reading challenges every month and count my progress with my TBR. So my physical TBR, I want to get that down. But in order to do that, I need to actually count my current TBR, and I want to do one of those videos where I show you my entire TBR and count as I go. I have done 2 of those in the past, so I didn't do this challenge last year, but I've done it a few years before. So it's just a matter of when I have the time to go and film that video where I show you all of my TBR to get that count that decides if I will start in January or February. So when the first reads and receipts monthly video will come out. And some of my TBR is actually wrapped currently, so I don't know how I can show those on that video, but I'll figure something out. Second, I want to take part in the Buzzword Reading Challenge, which was created by Kayla from Books and Nala. I haven't taken part in this before. I have sort of looked at it, but I haven't really done it. So this reading challenge has a buzzword for each month, so a word or a theme that is common in book titles. And so I thought I'd try to do this and choose books for my physical TBR and get the count down like that, so I would have a prompt for each month to pick one of my own books. And I joined this challenge on Storygraph because I thought that would be an easier way to track it. The third goal is pretty self-explanatory. I want to read 20 books off my TBR. That's like 1.5 books a month, so it seems doable, and I think I might make myself a Storygraph challenge for this. And my fourth and final goal is to finish 5 series. I have a lot of series where I have like 1 or 2 books left to read, so I should really get to those. And this is another one for which I think I will make a personal Storygraph challenge to sort of keep track better. And I might make a video of those series that I have 1 or 2 books left if you're interested. Let me know. But those are all my goals for 2023. I did set a number goal on the Storygraph and Goodreads, but those are not really goals. I just would like to see the counter go up. So let's get into my wrap up for my 2022 reading goals. So the first goal was a numbers goal. I set one for both Storygraph and Goodreads, and they are different numbers. They're separate because I don't track my graphic novels or comics on Storygraph, so that number is lower. I set it to 40 books and I read 49 books. And on Goodreads, I set my goal to 50 books, which I upped to 80 later, and I read 92 books. Then I had a list of 5 fantasy books that I wanted to read. Most of them were the starts of a series. There were 4 physical books and 1 ebook, and I finished one of the physical books. I finished The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and I didn't get to Fool's Assassin by Robin Hobb, The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons, and a reread of The Trader Baru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. And then the ebook that I had set for myself was The Kingdom of Gods by N.K. Jemisin, so that is the last book in the Inheritance series. But I didn't read that one. I actually substituted the ebook, so I substituted it for another series starter. So I read The Curse of Chalion by Lois McMaster Bujold. It was part of Fantasy series and I had owned it for a while, and it was an ebook, so I thought it was a good switch. I didn't really have a lot of strict challenges or goals for 2022, so the last one was just to read more of what I love, so that is high fantasy, fantasy of manners, fairy tale retellings, and vampires. And I did, I think, better with this during the first half of the year, and then during the latter half I read a lot more like random things. But I did get a few things read, and a lot of those books were actually among my favorites of the year, so I do know what sort of themes I like or what sort of genres I like. So for high fantasy, I reread the Dragonlance Legends trilogy, and I had a great time. That's written by Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. I'd read it as a teen, and it was so much fun to revisit those characters. And then The Curse of Chalion, of course, and The City of Brass, which I already mentioned. Also The Theft of Sunlight by Intisar Kanani. And then I think moving on to the Fantasy of Manners category, I read the entire Fantasy of Manners trilogy, The Kingston Cycle by C.L. Polk, so that's the series starting with Witchmark. I also read The Lady Jewel Diviner, I can't remember the author, Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, How Spirit Will Duchess by Tansy Rena Roberts, and I also finished my long-running reread because I've been listening to these as audiobooks and I'm a very slow audiobook listener. I finished my reread of The Parasol Protectorate by Gail Carriger by reading timeless. So now I'm going to move on to the next series in this universe, which I haven't read before. But then in fairy tales, I think I read Princess Flora Linda and the Fortified Tower by Tamsin Muir. I really enjoyed the audiobook of that. I read The Language of Roses by Heather Rose Jones, which was a quite like traditional Beauty and the Beast retelling. And then I read A Mirror Mended by Alexia Harrow, which had a Snow White theme. Really enjoyed that. And I think also Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher could count for this as well as the high fantasy category. Now, I didn't read that many vampire books. I read The Quick by Lauren Owen, is it? And The Root of Ice and Salt by Jose Luis Zarate. So I just need to up my vampires. But it's clear that I really enjoy focusing on those categories. So that was all of my challenges that I had in 2022. I didn't really have that many. And for this year, I have 4, the Reads and Receipts, the Buzzword Reading Challenge, Finish 5 series, read 20 books of my physical TBR. So I think I can do those. Let me know if you have set any reading goals for yourself. And that's all from me for now. And I'll see you in my next video.